Welcome back to Season 4 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful sobriety stories. We're here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. In this episode of the podcast, we welcome Jane, who shares her journey of growing up surrounded by alcohol, struggling to fit in, and eventually becoming dependent on alcohol herself. She recounts her early experiences with alcohol, the impacts of others drinking, and her own struggles with binge drinking and blackouts. Jane talks about her attempts to moderate her drinking, the escalation in her 20s and 30s, and the impact on her relationships and motherhood. And this is Jane's story on the Sober Motivation Podcast. What's up? Brad here. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Thanks for checking out another episode. Incredible story, Jane's story, all the way from Australia. I want to give you a heads up. When we were with Sober Buddy, we had meetings that anybody could join a couple times a month. I want to bring those back. The plan is with the Sober Motivation community now. So keep an eye on Instagram, and then when we do go live with that, where you can join the community and then attend those events that will be a couple times a month to start anyway to see how it goes. But join Instagram. Keep an eye and an ear out for the podcast where I'll mention more of the details once everything gets finalized and launched. But let's get into Jane's story right now. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. We've got Jane with us today. Jane, how are you?
Good, thanks, Brad. Excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to jump on here and share your story with all of us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
So what was it like for you growing up?
For me, growing up, alcohol was part of daily life. It was normal for drinking to happen in my household every night, and we just thought that was normal. And it was very common for my dad to get home from work, being to a pub or club, not be able to walk or talk properly, and my mum would be upset, and my sisters and I would either go to our rooms or we would yell at him to go to bed. And it wasn't all bad. We've got those great childhood memories of, we went on some really great family holidays and we had a great time, my sisters and I together. And, putting on shows with the cousins and all those things. But just looking back, alcohol did play a big part in those memories from childhood.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that too. If anyone can't tell from your accent there, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Sutherland Shire in Sydney.
Okay.
And we're right by the beach. So it's a lovely area to grow up.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time at the beach growing up?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. So you have all this other stuff kind of going on too. How was school and everything for you? And you mentioned sisters as well.
Yeah, so I'm one of 4, all girls, and I am I'm number 2 of the 4. And so middle child, typical middle child. I've always felt like the black sheep of the family, and I've never fit in. And, a lot of that is probably in my head, but I still feel that way. And growing up school, I struggled to fit in at school as well. And I changed schools about year 8, and I was really lucky to find some beautiful friends very quickly. But I just always felt a bit out of place. And I didn't drink much during my teenage years at all. I kind of went through this bit of a born-again Christian phase and went to youth group on Friday night. And so I think that was the saving grace for me. I kept me out of trouble. But I The obsession with alcohol, though, was there from an early age. One memory in particular, I it was our year 10 formal, which is like a prom.
Okay.
And everyone was having an after party afterwards. And initially I was allowed to go. And my parents had agreed to buy alcohol for me for that after party. And I, at the very last minute, the venue had changed and I wasn't allowed to go ultimately. And so I started walking to this party. I left the house and started walking. It was late at night. My parents had to follow me in their car, trying to get me to come home. And I didn't want to go to the party. I just wanted to drink these drinks. Um, and so, yeah, I just remember that story because the obsession of wanting to drink was there, even though it didn't come. It didn't come until a bit later, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a prom like 17, 18
yeah,
ish.
I was
Yeah. So,
16.
oh, 16. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's interesting too. Like I share a lot about it in my story too. A lot of the feelings that you talk about, like being uncomfortable and having a hard time fitting in. We moved a little bit too when I was growing up, and that was challenging to start over. Some people I would think to myself, like, man, they make friends so easily. And I felt like for some of my life, it was such a challenge. It was so difficult to connect with other people and make friends and all of that stuff. One thing I'm wondering though is over the years of doing the podcast, there's been different stories, right? Parents kind of like that maybe aren't drinking and we don't see that at home. And then there are parents who are drinking a lot at home and we see that at home. And I always find it kind of interesting where some people are like, they see the chaos, they see the destruction or everything going on, and they're like, definitely not going to go down that road. And then some people find themselves doing it.
mm.
How did that look for you? Were you angry towards alcohol or kind of the what it was causing in life, or any thoughts there?
Like I hated it when my parents had been drinking. I absolutely hated it, but I didn't see an issue. some For some reason,
Mm.
it was. I think when I got into my early 20s, that's when I don't know. It just was so normal for us to drink
Mm.
with our parents, or when my sisters and I would start when we'd hit that age and we'd start going out together, and that's how we really bonded when we were a bit older. And yeah, it's what everyone did. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy that we hated it. I hated it so much, and I ended up just like them, just
Yeah.
like my dad.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. It's kind of an interesting thing, sort of the way it plays out sometimes. But another point you made there too is just it being normalized, right? In a lot of cultures and a lot of countries and everything too. What's the drinking age where you can start drinking? Legally in Australia,
Is 18.
18. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, that's different than the U.S. 21, Canada. Most places are 19. I think there's some that are 18 too. Yeah, and you're here at 18. It's like you have the thumbs up to get this drug basically, which
yeah,
probably back then I don't know if anybody even would have mentioned to it as such,
yeah.
you know.
No, I remember probably learned a little bit when I was 13 in
Yeah,
in during high school, but yeah, had no idea
yeah, no
what
idea
it
of
was
the
going to do.
yeah. So you get started. So I mean, it's kind of around 18 that you get started with drinking too. I mean,
Yeah,
what was
started every now and again. It wasn't until probably 1920 I would go out a little bit, but I was actually pretty good with my alcohol at that point. I would have my odd going out, blacking out moments, but I was pretty good until about early 20s.
Mm,
And during that time, I started developing all these new friendships, and it was because of alcohol.
yeah,
I thought that was where, yeah, I feel like people started to like me because of when I was drinking,
yeah,
because I was fun and I was kind of known for that I was known as that girl that would go out and have a good time. And yeah, if Britney Spears was coming on, I was known for doing a few lap dances, going around the pole. And it was, yeah, I had this persona around my drinking. And slowly I would, yeah, so at the beginning,
yeah,
at the beginning of my drinking, I would be out until the end. I was always that person out
yeah,
until the bar closed.
yeah,
But then as time went on, I was one of the first to leave because I was usually that drunk.
mm,
Um, I couldn't, yeah, I would always either be kicked out or I would just have to make the decision to leave.
yeah,
And yeah, I was going out, blacking out on a regular basis, 4 to 5 times a week,
yeah,
trying to find money from wherever I could to afford being able to go out that much.
yeah,
And and yeah, it was just crazy. I would wake up hungover and then do it all over again. I mean, I could handle it because I was a bit younger,
yeah,
but and
yeah,
there were some good times, but it was very surface, the friendships around then.
yeah,
You know, I wanted to go out with those people that would drink like me. And and yeah, so I put myself in some really unsafe situations.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I would wake up, no memory of what had happened,
yeah,
or I would do things that I would regret. And I, towards probably my mid 20s was where I just became very selfish and I would just go out and not really think about the consequences, even though it happened every weekend. You know, the
yeah,
same thing would happen every weekend. I would go out, black out. And it was as if I'd expected people to look after me, you know, and I would, all of a sudden, one night I woke up in a gutter at a local petrol station,
mm,
had no bag, no shoes, no phone. And I had to get a cab home and there were a few hours that I have no idea what had happened.
yeah,
And I got home, had to try to find money to pay the cab driver. My parents then had to drive me to the police station to try to find my belongings. And then I blamed the friends that I was with. Like, why didn't you look after me?
yeah,
And then those relationships soured basically from that moment when ultimately I should have been looking after myself and
yeah,
not putting myself in that situation. And then yeah, I continued to go out again, like still
yeah,
go out.
yeah.
And
Even with that stuff coming up, yeah. I'm wondering too, outside of the drinking in the bars and stuff, what are you doing for the rest of your days? Are you working or school or anything after high school?
Yeah, I was working. I went straight into full time work. I've always been in the financial planning, wealth management, insurance industries, and alcohol is a big part of that culture, that
Yeah.
workplace culture, um, and yeah, I remember when I was about 19, I had this job at one of the big banks, and he, yeah, my boss one night, and I remember at a work function a few weeks later, he was really concerned because we had some big executives coming to this event,
Mm.
and and I was the main person he was worried about, and I ended up being the best behaved out of everyone, and there were other people that were all over the place that night, not me, but and that was just the start. And
Yeah.
anyway, there have been lots of instances over the years, my drinking just
Yeah.
getting a bit out of hand at workplace events.
Yeah.
Most recently was just over it was 2.5 years ago, just before I came to my first AA meeting,
Yeah.
had a work Christmas party, and I, that was getting to the stage where I wasn't able to control my drinking. And because all the drinking was done at home, and then on those rare nights where I was actually going out,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to control it anymore. And
Mm.
yeah, so that I don't remember much from
Yeah.
the end of that night, and I was falling over in front of all my work colleagues, and
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Did you ever
Yeah.
like if you go back in the story, were there any the times where you were like, oh, look at all of this these situations that I'm kind of in, like maybe in your mid 20s, that maybe this is something to look at or talk with anybody, or did anybody say anything to you?
There was no, there was one moment I remember is I I'd gone to New York for a holiday, and I actually broke my foot, and I was in a boot. So I'd come back to Sydney that first night. I got back to Sydney. I was in my boot and couldn't really walk properly. And I went to the local bar that night, and I was living with my parents. And and one of the girls that I was really good friends with that worked at that bar, which is why I went there so much, was
Yeah.
she said to me, or someone else from there said to me, like, what are you doing here?
Mm.
Shouldn't you be at home? And I think that was one of the last times I went there. But I was just so embarrassed. But it was the truth.
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? I just got back. I've got this boot on.
Yeah.
I can't really walk properly. And yeah. And that was my early 20s.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago. And so things
Yeah.
kept progressing. Yeah.
Things kept progressing too. I mean, which you hear a lot too, right? What was the alcohol doing for you too? Because like part of me thinks too is with sort of the consequences that are coming up in life, that it's got to be providing something that helps us make sense of this to kind of continue going on. Because I think, right, people who don't necessarily have a problem, or things are not a problem for them. I think everybody who drinks has probably had one night where things went bananas in a sense, right? But I think that they're going to maybe look at things differently. And then I think people like me, when things go sideways, I might make adjustments for a day or two, but I get back to what works, right? Which is drink a lot. Any thoughts for you there?
Yeah, for me, I think it just helped me feel like I fit in. And it was very much part of my identity. Alcohol just became such a big part of my identity. And I didn't know any I didn't know any other way to just connect with people. I found it was a really great way to connect with other people. And yeah, I developed a lot of friendships based on my drinking.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a very relatable story. Is there anything you could put a finger on too, maybe from life or, before this point of drinking that put such maybe an emphasis on fitting in or belonging? You know what I mean? Because I relate to that really well. And I think to some of us it's more important than maybe others or different. But I find that, my story too, that was really important to, even with consequences, it was more important to fit in and to deal with the consequences. Was there anything that stands out to you for that about fitting in and belonging and having a community of people was like just so high on the list?
For me, I think because I always struggled with fitting in growing up, and I always was I always felt like everyone liked my sisters more than me. And so when I was finally in my 20s developing these friendships, I felt like people actually started to like me. And now, over time, now that I'm doing work on myself, I know that my self esteem really played a big part in a lot of my drinking and my behaviors. And yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that with us. So where do you go here? Like, I mean, mid 20s. How does life look like? Kind of pushing forward from there.
Mid 20s, I was still a bit all over the place in my working life. And I was very, I just, I've, I'd been unclear my whole life on what direction to go in.
Yeah.
So I've always continued throughout, very unclear, very all over the place in my working life. So at 25, I met my now ex-husband, and he was my very first boyfriend. And he also grew up thinking that alcohol was just a normal part of daily life. And so when we started to date, our relationship very much revolved around alcohol. And yeah, because he was my first boyfriend, I wanted to be at home, cook him dinner, do all those things. And we would drink at home together. And we would have a bottle of wine each from the very beginning of our relationship. So 2 bottles a night.
Yeah.
And we thought that was normal. And I didn't think it was much at all. I didn't even think that was much. And it wasn't until I started having conversations with girlfriends about how much I would drink a night, and they would say, what can't you just share a bottle? Why do you have to have a bottle each? And I'd be like, oh, I guess we could try. But like, why would we share a bottle? That was my thought. Like, who wants to just share a bottle? And
exactly.
yeah, because even around my family, it was very normal for us to drink a few bottles of wine together. And, my sister and I would say, like, I don't understand people that can't just drink a bottle of wine. And yeah, so it just progressed.
Mm.
Um, I was still going out, blacking out most times that I'll go out. And I
Yeah.
was now drinking a lot more at home in
Yeah.
this relationship. And I would usually say to my husband, or I would say to my parents when I was living with them still, I would say, I promise I'm not going to have a big night. I'm only
Yeah.
going to have one or two.
Yeah.
And I would even sometimes offer to drive, rarely offer to drive. And then as soon as I would have that first drink, it all changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not until I I heard the first drink does the damage. I
Mm.
heard that for I heard that for maybe a year before it actually I realized what all those times
Mm.
that I said that I'm not going to have a big night tonight.
Yeah.
And I truly meant those words when I said them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just all changed
It
as
all
soon as I would
changed.
have that first drink.
Yeah. No, I can relate to you on that. Yeah. It
Yeah.
yeah, changes things fast. Do your parents ever say anything to you about the drinking? Because you meant you were living with them for a bit too, right? Throughout here, we kind of mentioned, like, did they say anything about drinking or no?
I mean, it was an issue because it was happening regularly, just going out, blacking out, hungover. But my other sisters did it too. Maybe not to the extent
Yeah.
that I did it, but it was kind of that's just how it was.
Yeah. When
And
did you? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah. So just kind of what was around. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of what's around. I mean, I think on purpose too. We surround ourselves with people who drink like we do because we don't want anybody who's falling behind or who's going to make it seem like we're in the spotlight too. About, hey, we're having this much and somebody's not. When, if ever, do you pick up on that? Maybe there's more to the drinking than just I enjoy doing it. Sometimes I hear that from people, and I get really curious because it's like, well, I just like to drink. It's like, uh, but this is after they shared all the consequences they've experienced. And I'm like, I think there's more there. But was there any time when you were like, hey, I wonder if there's something else, some other reason behind drinking other than just going out and partying?
No, not until I was about 30, maybe. I started working at this wealth management firm, and everyone was very much high performing and into their fitness. Wake up really early, go to the gym, long hours at work. And it wasn't until I started working there that I questioned my drinking because one, I used to, like, I said to a guy that I worked with, I drink a bottle of wine a night. Like, that was, it wasn't, I just thought that was normal. And he was, oh, that seemed like a lot. And it wasn't until, and other people that worked there didn't drink like me.
Mm,
One person there didn't even drink. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm not, maybe this isn't normal,
mm.
what I'm doing. And it wasn't until I started working there yeah, questioned it.
Yeah. It was kind of like, yeah, maybe getting out of the bub like the social circle you were in, and you mentioned it to other people, and it's like, yeah, maybe everybody's not living this way. I mean, when you're in it though, you do. I hear it all the time, right? It's what everybody does. I thought that too, like when I was in college. This is what everybody does. But when I look back at it now, no, not everybody. Even in
Yeah.
college, not everybody not everybody was drinking. And there was definitely not everybody was drinking the way that I did. So it's kind of like that hindsight's 2020, but at the time it's we don't always see it though. So what kind of gets your wheels turning in the direction of how things were going too? Because now it sounds like too, You're still going out a bit, but it's shifting a little bit. So that whole sense of like, I go out, party, belong, have community, connect with other people. That sounds like it's still there a little bit, but now the drinking at home starts, which is a very common trend. And then now maybe it's checking different boxes for us too, because we're not really going out and, maybe the club and bar scene and everything as much. Did things start to change for you after you turned 30 at all or no?
Yeah, so we moved from where we were living in Sydney to down south in a city called Wollongong, to afford to buy a house down that way. And so all of a sudden we were very isolated. We were away from our families and our support networks. And we were drinking, like, yeah, we were just drinking at home, basically. And then it became more of a rare occurrence for me to go out and drink. And yeah, as time went on, so got married, and that was one of the biggest things I was actually concerned of in the lead up to our wedding.
Yeah.
Was me not remembering the wedding day. That was the thought in my head. I was like, I just want to be able to remember my wedding day, but I was so worried about my drinking that I wouldn't remember, because I knew I just had an issue. And so the night before the wedding, I drank way too much, and I ended up being really hungover on the wedding day. So I didn't actually have to worry because I couldn't get drunk anyway. But yeah, like the fact that I was, I should have, all these things happened and I didn't even think, oh, maybe, I should stop.
Yeah.
And
what were your thoughts what were your thoughts in this point in your life about somebody who doesn't drink? You mentioned the one guy at the job, but did you know anybody who didn't drink or no?
not really. And
Yeah.
I thought it was people that didn't drink were a bit strange,
Of course.
boring. I would say boring. And now I'm like, oh God, like I'm the sad one, really. And and yeah, just
So you have that too for your wedding day, to where you're hungover for your wedding day, right? But I
yeah,
mean, not drinking for it, but yeah, I mean, I think all of these things add up, right? I think all
yeah,
of the, everything too, right? All of the stuff happens that we don't feel good about. And we
yeah,
promise ourselves, I'm just going to have two tonight, one tomorrow. I'm not drinking that day. I mean, you do all of that, I think over a decade or 15 years or whatever. I mean, you lose trust in yourself. We don't have any confidence in our ability to follow through and to do stuff. And I think, I've heard in a lot of stories too, that this can kind of bleed into other areas of our life, right? Whether it be our career, whether it be our relationships, this not trusting ourselves to kind of follow through with what we say we're going to do, what we're going to commit to, I think really can really rough us up self-esteem wise too, with this.
yeah. I've never met my full potential because of my drinking. I would sign up for university degrees, and I would be at home, have an assignment due, and I'd need a glass of red wine to, because I thought that would make it easier for the thoughts to come, for the answers to help me write this assignment, and it would just make everything worse, because as soon as I would have that drink, I would want another one.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've never been able to fulfill, my potential. But yeah, like over the course of my relationship with my ex-husband, we would do the dry Julys, try to limit our drinking. We're not going to drink during the week,
Mm.
just on the weekends, and it wouldn't last long. And we would always try to reduce our drinking, but it just would always end up back to
Yeah.
every night. And he was a shift worker, so the issue was the nights he there were nights he wouldn't drink because he'd be at work and I'd be at home alone and I'd be drinking.
Yeah.
And so when he had nights at home, he also wanted to drink, but then I'd say, no, we're not drinking tonight. And it was all based, it was all on my terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you guys do on the nights you weren't drinking? Watch a movie or go to bed early or?
I can't even remember. We would probably watch TV, just watch TV.
Yeah.
And yeah, when now that I'm sober, I'm like, there's so much we could have been
Yeah.
doing. Like,
Yeah. I
but
think that type of moderation thing, I mean, I think a lot of us, I don't know if everybody does because I haven't talked to everybody, but I think a lot of us go through it in one way or another. Maybe it looks different, but the hamster wheel of that, I don't know. Part of me is like, it's much worse than just going all the way and just drinking whenever you want. Because when you try to put boundaries up, against something that is so resistant to boundaries, it's just like the mind games and everything is just, I feel like it becomes even more of a full-time job. Now we're not hung over every morning, but we're also just like going in this back and forth about limiting ourselves. And the reality is like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's so much easier on this side of things just to not drink at all. Of course, there's challenges and hard days and moments, in the beginning and wherever, that it's like, oh my gosh, I really want to drink. But if we make it through 20 minutes or an hour of the day of wanting to drink and just don't, it's like the mind is clear again to go and do whatever else. So that it's just very relatable here, I think, for a lot of people of trying to make sense of it. And I would say that's like a massive red flag, because people who don't struggle with this, I don't know that it's necessarily like that they're looking at putting up, all of these rules that we just end up breaking. I mean, we'll be honest here. I did
yeah,
anyway, ended up
yeah,
breaking them. And, and I think every time I don't know if you relate to this or not, but a lot of people share it and I can relate to when we have stints of sobriety where we're not drinking, say we do 30 days or we do 10 days or 5 days, whatever it is, and then go back to drinking. The snowball seems to pick up speed a little bit. Every time we do that, it seems harder to get back up, but it also feels like things go a little bit lower. I don't know. Was that your experience or no?
yeah. We did it a few times. I don't even remember, but it makes me think of. So I, so when it progressed, my drinking,
Yeah.
to then when I started having my pregnancies, and so I had it about a year after we got married. I had a miscarriage at about 8 weeks, and my drinking really my drinking escalated after that miscarriage, and I was gone from limiting myself, which it was hard at that point to limit myself to a bottle of wine. And I always struggled with just drinking a bottle of wine. But after the miscarriage, I was drinking at least a bottle and a half of wine a night. And I then soon after fell pregnant with my first child. And she was actually born 2 weeks before the first COVID lockdown. And my husband and I always said she saved us, because we both knew our drinking would have been really bad during lockdown if she wasn't around, because I was still breastfeeding and, the nights were terrible, waking up a few times. And so, but as soon as I reduced or stopped breastfeeding, my drinking would just escalate straight away. So it was as if I'd been drinking that whole time throughout my pregnancy or whatever, and it had been getting worse. But yeah, it was as soon as I stopped breastfeeding, my drinking had gotten even worse to before I got pregnant with her.
Yeah. What about when you were pregnant? Was that an easy transition from drinking to not drinking, or how'd that go?
It was okay. It was okay. The f- yeah, I was really I had a massive night the night before I did my pregnancy test,
Yeah.
and because I was like one last hurrah, and that's even ridiculous. Like a normal person probably wouldn't do that, and but yeah, I think because of the miscarriage, I was just grateful to be pregnant. So I wasn't too
Yeah.
resentful to my husband for drinking or being designated driver, but also towards the towards about 30 weeks, I really was hard on him about drinking. And I think a lot of that was because I was jealous that he was able to drink. And I was kind of just trying to punish him. And I would say to him, I might need you to drive me to the hospital at any point. And
Yeah.
so you just need to not drink, um,
Yeah.
or just have two. And that he, yeah, it was, and I can see now I was doing that because not for the safety. It was just, I was just being difficult because of
Yeah.
my own issues with alcohol.
Yeah. It's the last hoorah, I think you mentioned it there too. I mean, a lot of people have those situations too. Um, and maybe you had more than one. I'm always curious though, like was it what you thought it would be? I think in my life when I had those, yeah, this is going to be it, this massive whatever, and I always kind of left like disappointed, like I thought that was going to be something special, and I don't think it ever was. It's kind
No,
of,
definitely not.
yeah.
Yeah.
What did things look like from there for, kind of from there forward too? I mean, your first time mom here coming up shortly in the story too. I mean, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. First time mum, I really enjoyed the newborn stage. It is a beautiful time. It's the later stages that I struggle with, the toddler and all those stages. But yeah, it was a beautiful time, especially with COVID. So we really were just in our own bubble,
Yeah.
and it was very sad too, being not being able to see the family during that time.
Mhm.
But yeah, my drinking just started getting really bad, and I knew, I don't know whether before I got pregnant, but I just knew I didn't want my kids to grow up thinking it was normal to drink every night.
Mm.
And that is where it had changed from where I used to work, where that shift had happened, where I thought this isn't normal.
Mm.
And I just, yeah, I didn't want them to grow up thinking it was normal to drink every night, but I still couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And
What did you try anything? Like outside of just sheer willpower? Did you
I
reach
did.
out? Yeah.
So I really wanted to stop. I really wanted to stop drinking. And so I went and saw a hypnotist. So
Oh,
she
okay.
said, yeah. So she said she could make me stop drinking.
Okay.
And, but then in our session before we started, she said, well, I can make you stop drinking or I can make you drink how you want to drink.
Oh,
So if you want to have one or two,
yeah.
I can make you have one or two.
Okay.
And I thought, well,
Perfect.
I would, yeah, perfect. And I would obviously prefer that. And so, yeah, I saw her and I don't know if it worked. I felt really relaxed and I think I was drinking like that night or the next day, but I was saying to
Yeah.
my husband, I'm definitely going to stop drinking because of this. And
Mm.
but soon after I saw her, so I should have seen her for at least 3 sessions.
Mhm.
But after the first session, I pretty much fell pregnant with my second child.
Mm.
soon after I saw her. So I didn't, as soon as I was pregnant, I didn't have to worry about my drinking again. It wasn't even a thought when I was pregnant. And
Isn't that like that's interesting how
yeah,
when how that shift or whatever happens there, it's like, okay, I've got this thing where I'm thinking about it all the time, drinking a bottle and a half a day, and then get pregnant. And then, yeah, because I've heard that before. And then it kind of, you don't really think about it or it changes maybe.
yeah. And
Yeah.
my husband would say, he would say to me, I don't have a problem with alcohol,
Yeah.
me, because I could go 9 months without drinking.
Yeah.
And I went a few months without drinking in the lead up to our wedding. But that was because I wanted to look good. And so if I had things to work for, like to a goal in a
Yeah.
goal inside my baby's health, insight, wanting to
Yeah.
be healthy for the baby and wanting the baby to be healthy, I
Yeah.
could stop.
Yeah.
But as soon as I had that second child, my second daughter, and as soon as I stopped breastfeeding, my drinking just got really bad straight away
Yeah. Picked up again.
because I knew there were no other pregnancies after her.
Yeah.
There were going to be no more children. So I had nothing to, think of, try to limit my drinking for. And
Yeah.
I was really unhappy in my relationship. And I had been for a few years at that point.
Mm.
And, but I think the pregnancies, having those kids in sight, that it kind of helped me deal with what was going on around me a bit better.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as soon as I stopped breastfeeding her, I just started drinking to cope.
Yeah.
And I started drinking to blackout every night.
Yeah.
And I was still going to work, full time job, getting up. And every morning I would say, I'm not going to drink today. I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
And then 2 o'clock would come around and I'd be thinking, like, having the battle, going to the bottle shop or not on my way home from work. And then usually by 5 o'clock it was, well, what bottle shop am I going to go to? Because I don't want to go to the one I went to yesterday.
Yeah. Did you go every
And
day? Did you go to the shop every day?
yeah,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to have the alcohol in the house.
Yeah.
Because I would say every day I'm not going to drink.
Mm.
So I didn't want to have the alcohol in the house, and we could never have, if there was alcohol in the house, we would drink it.
Yeah.
So we could never have these special bottles of wine hanging around.
Yeah.
They wouldn't last. And yeah, I never understood those people that had like
A bar,
a
full
fridge
bar in the
full of,
house.
I know, a fridge
Yeah.
full of like wine, or
So
because
it was kind of like your way to limit, some way to limit, right? If you just get
yeah,
one bottle, you go home. I mean, by the time you're done that, everything might be closed or it doesn't make any sense to go forward with more. So it was like kind of the
yeah,
limit. And then tomorrow, of course, you're quitting. So there's no need to buy any more. Yeah. I mean, I did that for an entire year and went to
yeah,
the
yeah,
store
yeah.
and bought alcohol every day. And I was like, yeah, I'm quitting tomorrow. Yeah. It was
Yeah, and it was
wild.
the same with cigarettes because I haven't smoked for 10 years, but when I tried to quit, I used to break up my cigarettes the night before, like the night when I would go to bed, I'd break up my cigarettes and then I'd go buy a packet the next day. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, with the alcohol at that point, so we had moved again to a different area, a bit closer to our families,
Mm.
and this new house was in walking distance to 3 bottle shops,
Mm.
which was an issue. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and when I used to go to the bottle shop in the beginning. I'd just buy a bottle of wine or 2 bottles for me and my husband.
Yeah.
But those last few months, I just didn't even care. And I would start just buying 2 bottles for myself.
Yeah.
And then I would start buying 3 bottles for myself every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just knew I wasn't going to be able to just drink one.
Mm.
So I just made sure I was prepared.
Yeah. At that point in your life too, what do you put on it that's kind of fueling, the increase or things, right? Like what's kind of going on? Because maybe some of the other stuff that kickstarted all of this, maybe it's there still, maybe it's not there, maybe there's other stuff that's come up. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's definitely the I was just really struggling with parenting, and my kids at that stage were, I think, 3 and 9 months, and um, I was very unhappy in my relationship. I was just unhappy in my life in general. And to me, I know that what was fueling that was I was not living the life I wanted to live. I was not,
Mm.
I'd always just done what I thought I should do.
Mm.
I'd always kind of just followed the script of want to get married, want to have kids, want to have a house, white picket fence.
Yeah.
That was happiness. That was success
Yeah.
in the eyes of everyone else. And I was absolutely miserable.
Yeah. Oh, it's really tough when you get there and things, that's not how we feel about it, right? I think there's a lot of stuff externally that we can tend to reach for, right? To fill like an internal void. A lot of people talk about that when it comes to alcohol, right? Sort of a black hole or, something kind of on the inside. And then we reach out to whether it be alcohol or whatever it is, right? To sort of feel comfortable with life and everything going on. When do you turn this thing around, Jane?
I, a few months into drinking that way, I started seeing a psychologist, and he was the first person that I admitted to, other than my husband, that I thought I had an issue with alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was honest with him about how much I was drinking. And
What did he say?
I mean, it's not a surprise, really.
Yeah.
There are so many people in the community struggling
Yeah.
with
True.
alcohol.
Yeah.
But, it's just not safe for the kids. It's
Yeah.
not safe for me to be drinking that amount every night. And yeah,
How did it feel? How did you feel when you share with? This is kind of the first time, right? You share with somebody.
yeah,
And
I
felt,
did feel, I felt relieved.
yeah.
I felt like I could trust him. But yeah, I felt that was the first step I needed to make
Yeah.
to start making changes,
Yeah.
no matter how long it took. And yeah, so from then I ended up, I started looking up AA. So he suggested AA,
He did. Okay.
and I started looking it up. There was one down the road from my house, and I one night I was desperate to just get through that night without drinking. And so I'd kind of had a blue with my husband about him wanting to go to the bottle shop and me not wanting to go, because again, it's all on my terms. Like on the nights that I didn't want to drink, he wasn't drinking either. But on the nights that he didn't want to drink, I wanted him to drink. And so yeah, I went to a meeting. Had a blue with him, walked out the door, didn't tell him where I was going, and I walked in, and there were only 4 other people in there, and I just felt at home straight away. And I knew I was in the right place, and I related to their shares. That night, everyone shares, and yeah, I finally belonged somewhere, and
Did you share?
I did share.
Yeah.
And I was able to just be completely honest and no judgment.
Yeah.
And so from that night, everyone just said, just keep coming back, 90 meetings in 90 days. And because I have kids and because my husband was a shift worker, I couldn't get to face every night. And so someone was suggest doing the Zoom meetings. And so I tried to log into a Zoom, and then I would log out and go to the bottle shop. So I kept drinking for another 6 to 7 months, and things just progressively got worse. And I started, at first my drinking had reduced, but then I started going to the bottle shop after meetings. And then I was avoiding meetings altogether in the end because I just hated getting up constantly for 6 months and saying I'm 1 or 2 days sober. And even though there was no judgment from anyone, it was just me. I just felt shame and yeah, so things are getting worse. It was very unsafe for the kids. And my husband didn't know what he was going to come home to, and so he didn't know what to do. So he told my mum and sisters about my drinking, and they started contacting me to try to see how they could help me to stop. And mum, we were looking at rehabs. I was trying to avoid them because of the girls, because I was so little. And so, my mum said, go to the GP and you need to tell them. So I went to the GP, and it was nothing. It was like nothing she hadn't heard before. And I was honest with her about how much I was drinking. And she said she had a few other women in the community, patients of hers that were on Naltrexone, which she recommended to me. And so, she said, you need to stop drinking for 3 days. She said Valium is an option if you can't stop drinking for 3 days. And she said, your husband needs to come in to say he'll be with you for those 3 days if you are taking Valium. So I thought, I'll just go without the Valium. I'm sure I'll be fine. And looking back, I should have taken the Valium because those 3 days were absolute hell. The first day, in the end, my family, they were all waiting for me to start these tablets. And I wasn't taking the tablets because I couldn't stop drinking. Because I just kept thinking, it's the end. This is the end. And I just couldn't imagine my life without that last drink or continuing to drink. And in the end, my little sister had to come over one night when my husband was at work to make sure I didn't drink. And when it got to about 9:30, 10, I said, it's okay. You can go. I'm not going to drink. And then the next day I went to work, and on my way home went to a meeting, and I was okay. But the next day, so my day 3 was an absolute nightmare. And I had both my kids that day, and I got them out of the house in the morning, and I was going absolutely insane in my head and just really wanted to drink, knowing that this was the last day. And got home that afternoon. I was in all sorts, and my little sister, she came over again to just make sure I was okay and didn't drink. And that whole day I'd been messaging my husband saying, I really want to drink. I'm really struggling today. I don't know how I'm going to make it through. And he walked in the door an hour late from work with a case of beer. And it did not go down well. And I ended up running out the door, got in my car, and started driving down a main road and wanted to end it all. And I was ready to just drive into oncoming traffic. And I just kept thinking of my little sister back at the house and the girls. And so I turned around and I went back to the house. And then when I walked in the door, I got into my daughter's bed and just was in a ball, in tears. And my little sister had gone to try to find me, and she came back to the house. And I said, just go. I said, I'll be okay. I said, I'll go have a bath and I'll go to a meeting. And when she left, I went and poured a few of the beers down the sink and I lost it. And then I went and had a bath for like an hour. And then I went to a meeting that night, which was at 8:00, and went for an hour and a half. And I walked out the doors at 9:30, and my two sisters were standing next to my car, wanting to make sure I was okay. And so, yeah, I just will never forget that moment of the support from my sisters. I just knew in that moment that I made it. I've survived today. And the very next morning, I took the tablet at 7:00 and it took away my cravings. And it doesn't happen for everyone that way. A lot of people say Naltrexone doesn't work for them, but there are a few of us that it does work for. So we are lucky. I think at that point, when I did take the Naltrexone, I was desperate to stop. I know, even though I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol, I still was desperate to stop, which I think that's part of the reason why the tablets did work. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the journey for the last 3 days. And that was over 2 years ago, June 28th.
Yeah.
That's incredible too. I mean, when you look back at this whole story here, Jane, of how things were, and how things are now, I mean, does it surprise you at all that you were able to get out of that cycle and make those changes?
It does.
Yeah.
And it does. And I really just had to just, to be honest, it is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because I could have kept on that cycle for years.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it is so normal. I could go to my family barbecue and drink 2 bottles of wine and no one would bat an eyelid. And or I remember.
Has it changed at all? I mean, I'm wondering, just with your experience of all of this and how you've shared it. I mean, has it changed? And I know that's not necessarily why we do it, but just wondering too if anything else has woken up too about that or no?
Within the family.
Yeah, or maybe even a little bit further out than that. Yeah, I mean, is it?
It has.
Yeah.
Since I've stopped, I feel like there is awareness
Yeah.
with family about potentially their drinking.
Yeah.
But other people have reached out to me
Yeah.
and they are struggling too, or have been struggling. And it's just it's such a big part of the culture here
Yeah.
to drink, and the whole coping with parenting. That's a massive issue.
Yeah.
It's so normal to just drink to cope with parenting.
Yeah. What do you know now that maybe could help somebody too if they're in that spot, right? A new mom or however it lands. Like, is there anything that in the last couple of years you've learned that maybe could have helped you out in those situations? What are your thoughts?
For me, it is, for me, it's the being able to get through daily life, showing my girls they don't need alcohol to cope with daily life.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most powerful thing you can pass on to your children, that they are enough just
Yeah.
as they are. They don't need any of these other things
Yeah.
to get through life. But it's just giving them the tools to get through it. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
a lot of moms share too, like getting into the mommy wine culture and everything. Parenting is difficult, but so then lean into the drinking, right, to help. But like, I just heard all the stories. Drinking makes everything a heck of a lot worse.
it makes it so much worse. But I think as well, the other message is the first step I had to make was ask for help.
Yeah.
And I was lucky with the GP that I got, who I didn't even know well.
Yeah.
I was lucky she suggested all these things to me, that it
Yeah.
was, it was, it was nothing she hadn't heard before. But I've heard some nightmare stories as well of other
Mm-hmm.
women going to their GP
Mm-hmm.
saying, I'm drinking a bottle or two a night.
Mm-hmm.
And that GP is saying, that's normal. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. And that person has then progressed and made some bad decisions in their life.
Yeah.
And, or another GP has said, I drink the same amount, so you don't have an issue.
Yeah.
And so,
Or
yeah,
just cut back yeah.
yeah. So I got lucky.
You did. Yeah. It's interesting on that topic too, but this is like way off topic, but kind of on topic. There was an AI mental health chatbot that I guess some guy had talked to, and I think he was using meth or something, and it had suggested like cutting back. And everybody like went up in arms about this, about, this is really bad. And like, I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm indifferent to it. But I think that I've heard the story you just shared countless times where people go to see their
Mhm.
doctor and then everybody jumped on, the chatbot all of a sudden for, it's weird sort of thing. It kind of spit out. But yeah, that's the thing. What prevented you, do you think, for a time to share with somebody to get help? Because I mean, I think that's a big barrier that a lot of us get stuck with, right? About sharing this with somebody else. But that can be like opening the door to like, hey, maybe we could do something here. And maybe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but maybe it doesn't end up being as scary as we thought it would be. Maybe it was, we get the right person, we share. It's like, oh my gosh, I can take the backpack full of rocks off. I mean, what kind of held you back, and what was your experience like?
Part of it was that it was almost, even though my drinking was getting really bad, it was also kind of acceptable and still. And though people didn't know what was going on behind like closed doors, how bad it
Mm-hmm.
really was, I would go to, I remember I went to, I took the kids to a playground one morning, and another mum said to me, because it was a bit rough getting my toddler to leave the playground. And the mum said, make sure you go through the drive-through on the way home and get a bottle of champagne
Oh,
just to, get through the afternoon. And this is at like 11 o'clock.
yeah.
And that kind of, I don't know, that was another switch in my head that thought, okay, this is okay. I can drink during the day to cope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't remember what I was getting at there,
Yeah.
but
It just normalized, I think,
yeah, it's
everyone,
just so normalized.
yeah. Like sometimes I think if you have people around you that are like, hey, have a look at this, like something's going on. But if you have everybody around you kind of saying, no, I mean, I don't think there's anything going on. I mean, look, you can take 1 month off. I mean, that's extremely confusing for people because I hear it all the time, right? I can take a month off. I don't drink every weekend. I just, but when I do, I binge and and there's consequences and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but it doesn't matter about frequency. It doesn't matter about volume. How do you feel that this is fitting into your life? Do you feel like it's helping you reach your goals and be where you want to be? And I think a lot of us, when we kind of get honest with ourselves and look within, it's like, no, this is not helping any area of my life. How do things look like for you now? I'm just thinking towards wrapping up. It's been a
Yeah.
quick hour and in 20
Yeah, I know.
minutes. So how do things look like for you now? What are some takeaways from, just over 2 years?
For me, I still struggle with life. I still struggle with daily life, but my life is just so peaceful now. So I've made a lot of changes in my life. Within a month of getting sober, I left my marriage and I just had so much clarity and I just couldn't deal with the reality anymore sober. And I knew what I needed to do. And, he is a great person. He's a great dad, but we just weren't right for each other. And,
Yeah.
but I just had the clarity finally to not go back on my word once I made that decision.
Yeah.
Because a few times throughout the years, I'd made that decision to like, which are we right for each other? Are we not right for each other?
Yeah.
But then we'd just have a drink together.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
it.
I'd say,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really interesting. I had another person on the podcast too about how she goes about things now. She knows right away if there's a connection, right? Whether it be a friendship or a
yeah,
relationship. And I feel like, because I had not a marriage in a sense that was fueled by the drinking, but I've had relationships or girlfriends or whatever in the past where, I look back and I was like, man, I think if we weren't drinking, we could have potentially, like, I don't want to like beat myself up over the past. I learned a lot and I can't go back and change it. But I think with the sober mind and a sober heart going into things, I would have maybe saved both of us, myself and the other person, some time other than just drinking. And when stuff came up and when we had arguments or fights, it was like, let's just have a drink and then we forget about it and stuff. Yeah. So it's interesting, sort of that perspective.
yeah. And so the first year was very up and down. I had being in early sobriety and plus the separation.
Yeah.
So I was going through a lot, but I was able to just tick the next thing off the list because I was sober.
Yeah.
And I did so I stopped taking Naltrexone at about 7 months.
Okay.
And then something triggered me at 9 months and I almost relapsed. And it was because I asked for help that I didn't relapse.
Yeah.
I knew, even though I wanted to drink, I knew I really wanted to avoid relapsing. And so, yeah, the ultimate thing, yeah, I reached out to a few different, even reached out to a rehab for relapse prevention. But because of the kids, I was trying to avoid it. And ultimately, I ended up messaging my sister and said, I'm going to relapse. I need help. That's all I said to her. And she was there for me that whole weekend
Wow.
to look after my kids so that I could get to meetings. And I started taking the Naltrexone again just in case. And so I took Naltrexone until I was just over a year sober. And now I feel absolutely fine. But yeah, life for me, yeah, I still have my ups and downs, like my mental health. But yeah, I started a business last year called Let's Get a Petty, and it's started as self-care gift boxes for women going through life transitions, like divorce, grief, and it's, I have on my most recent gift box, the grief, the box for someone going through grief. The guide is very much tailored towards how to get through the emotions without numbing. And my ultimate purpose is I want to empower women to live their most authentic lives so they don't need to numb with alcohol. And that is where the business has now evolved, where I'm doing these teen talks at high schools where I talk to teenage girls about the reality of alcohol, the negative impacts of numbing their emotions, and where to go for support if they are struggling with someone at home with alcohol. And I also talk to them about living their most authentic lives and what that means, and how they can have self-belief that they can do anything, and that a successful life is a peaceful mind, a healthy body, and a life they don't need to escape from. And, that it's that if they are struggling with someone at home and their parents drinking, that it's not okay, and that there is support out there. And so I do talk about Al-Anon, and I give them some other resources, and I am suggesting to all the high schools that they create a free support group once a week at lunchtime for the students affected by parents drinking. But also that could also include the parents drinking, drugs, gambling, which is a massive issue too. Yeah, because the Al-Anon thing obviously is not really available. They could do the online, but the students are probably not going to say, I want to go to an Al-Anon meeting to their parents because of your drinking.
Yeah.
So, having this support group that is confidential, safe space, could be a good.
That's cool. How many of these presentations have you done?
Well, I've booked a few coming up, but I've done one.
Wow.
So I've done my first one last month.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And I'm
reaching back in and helping other people too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it went really well, and it really did give me that confirmation of that it is needed in the community.
Yeah.
A few
they
things.
Ask questions?
They didn't ask questions because it was going into their recess. And so they all just wanted to get out of there.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
They did give me some feedback, and one of them said, what did you get out of today's talk? And they said, it's not my fault for my dad drinking.
Wow.
And one of them said, what did you get out of today's talk? That it is okay to ask for help. And there were a few other comments in there about, them, that I'm glad that my mom's not alone, or that, so there's definitely, there were definitely a lot of comments about drinking.
Yeah. So it is, it is common out there, I guess, It is really common too. Well, thank you so much, Jane, for jumping on here and sharing your story with us. Any thoughts you have for closing here?
Thoughts for closing would be that just keep trying, no matter how many times you may lapse or in this cycle. Ask for help, and if I can do it, you can do it. And it's just, my life is just so much better. 2 years in, it's getting better and better each month. I just have this serenity that I couldn't have imagined. And it's all because, doing the work, but just being sober. I can put my head down on the pillow and go to sleep. And that is the biggest gift.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it all starts with not drinking too. I feel like sometimes we want to get ahead of ourselves, we want everything to change. And the reality is though, we got to quit drinking first step and then, put in some effort and find a path that works for us. And things change.
Thanks so much for having me, Brad.
Well, there it is. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Jane, because of the time change from Canada to Australia, I think it was 3 a.m. for her to wake up and do the show. So much appreciated. Thank you, Jane. I'll drop the contact information of Instagram for Jane down in the show notes below. Let her know what you thought of the episode, high five virtually, and all that cool stuff. And I'll see you on the next one.